Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. Today we're talking about the Academy finally making a decision on what to do with Will Smith. The Fast 10 family gets a little bit bigger, and Marcel the Shell with shoes is going to trample your heart with love. All this and everything else that happened this week in Geek.
Love ya. Get home safe, guys. Peace.
Hello, I'm J-Law, but you can call me Justin. And if you're joining us for the first time, well, we are Geekcentric, a podcast celebrating the world of movies, TV shows, toys, collectibles, gaming, and all things geek-centric. And joining me for today's This Week in Geek episode is my spooky counterpart, Kevin Hudson. How are you, buddy?
Spooky. I like it. I think I know where you're going with that later on in the show. So that's
Exactly.
good. Yeah.
It's a little tease for the listeners. So, how are you, man? How was your weekend?
Doing well. I went to it's the best time in the year for sports, and
Yes.
it's a good time to be a sports fan as a Toronto fan. And so I was at the home opener and the game on Saturday as well. So it was a busy weekend. Nice to go downtown and make a little weekend out of it. So yeah, I'm doing okay.
Right. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, just for our listeners, I'm sporting my Blue Jay sweater for the team because they are back. But they had a busy weekend, obviously, game opener in Toronto, and it was great to see that you actually ventured out. How was the experience though? Because on the news they were talking a lot about just it's the first time the stadium's been sold out in over 3 years, and just crazy amounts of crowds of people, and it felt like in a way. The sort of reaction to this pandemic, just seeing how packed it was and people getting out and enjoying the game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was crazy to see the building full again. It's been years, and so anytime you can have 50,000 fans celebrating together, it's awesome. And then, like I was at the home opener, quote unquote, last year when the Jays finally returned to Toronto after a couple years, and that was really special. And but there was only 15,000 people with seating limitations and everything going on. And so this year, especially with all the hype going into the season, and then to have the building full again, the building was electric. And I got to say, we didn't get off to the best start. We were trailing pretty heavy, pretty early, and it was, you could just feel the energy get sucked out of that place. But this team, you can never, ever count out the Blue Jays. This offense is crazy, and so even a 7-0 deficit was nothing for them to overcome, and the fact that they did it, and that just helped make just a terrific atmosphere. And then I got to say, Saturday was almost as cool because, as I mentioned, it's like the best time of the year. So as we were leaving the game on Saturday evening, you had Blue Jays fans piling out of the city and Maple Leaf fans piling into the city. And so it was just sports central, and the energy and the buzz. Right. I mean, I have said it already tonight. This is the best time in a long time to be a Toronto sports fan. We have literally the best hockey player and the best baseball player in the world at the same time. We are being spoiled. Now all they have to do is just win me a championship, maybe two. And I'll be complete. Life will be complete.
The Raptors are off that list because they already did it.
The Raptors did it, and you know what? They're not like. I mean, they've had a terrific season.
They're having
a great story.
The
fact that they've made the playoffs. They have a real good chance to upset Philly, which would be awesome because we did that on our run to the championship a few years ago. But there's no pressure on them. This is just a bonus that they've even made it this far and are in the playoffs, and so it's just pure fun, whereas there's a ton of pressure on the Leafs. We've had this core for 5 years. Yeah. It's time to get something done. Got to win a round. And then with the Jays, all the pundits around baseball putting us in their top 2-3 best teams to look out for this year. World Series favorites on a lot of people's lists, so a lot of pressure there too. But again, can't complain too much. I'm just a bundle of stress. Every night of my life is going to be spent watching something, obsessing over the score of one game or another.
Yeah, for sure. Again, this is a geek podcast where we talk about movies and TV shows and toys and collectibles, but your passion for sports is very much felt. As long as I've known you, you've always been a big sports nut. And I think it's also just reminiscent of Toronto. Toronto is huge sports fans, and we do have some great teams, and they've worked hard to build out these teams so that they can be reputable, so that they can be in the ranks of being some of the best. And yeah, hopefully the season looks good for the Jays. The Leafs look like they're panning out to be, they've got the playoffs clinched, if I'm not mistaken, and they had a great weekend. So it's exciting. You're right. It is exciting. If you're a Torontonian sports fan, it is the best time to be into sports.
And I think I've said it on this show a lot before. I don't think being a geek is relegated to just movies and TV shows and things like Star Wars and Marvel. I think you can geek out over anything. You can be a music geek. You can be a sports geek. And really what a geek is just somebody who's really, really passionate about something.
Passionate.
And
exactly.
and that's what we are all about here on this show. And so, the fact that we have just such a range of different tastes and interests and hobbies and everything, that's what makes us so diverse and unique.
Yeah, that's very true. Now, I think we've blown enough smoke up our own asses to now collectively move into the news.
It's all about the details.
All right, so our first news story, the Film Academy bans Will Smith from the Oscars ceremony for 10 years. This article comes from Scott Feinberg over at The Hollywood Reporter. 12 days after Will Smith slapped and screamed profanities at Chris Rock during the 94th Academy Awards ceremony, the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Science has ruled that Smith, who was presented with the Best Actor Oscar that same evening, has been banned from returning to the Oscars or attending any other Academy event for the next 10 years. Smith will retain the Oscar that he won and remains eligible for future Oscar nomination wins, but he just can't show up, apparently. So, the Academy's 54-person Board of Governors held a special meeting this past Friday to determine what actions to take against Smith. Until 1 week ago, when Smith announced that he was resigning as a member of the organization, he was expected to face suspension or expulsion as well, having violated the standards of conduct that the Academy implemented following the Me Too movement. Shortly afterwards, Smith, through a spokesperson, issued a brief statement on the verdict, if you will, saying, "I accept and respect the Academy's decision." Now, it doesn't really end there. Many members of the industry have expressed outrage over Smith's behavior, which he himself called shocking, painful, and inexcusable. Some even called for him to lose the Oscar statuette that he was awarded at the Oscars. But the Academy appears to have doubled down on its long-held position that there is a line between on-screen work and off-screen conduct. I think the best examples, as Scott Feinberg kind of outlines here, Harvey Weinstein and Roman Polanski have been expelled from the organization, but each still have Oscar statuettes awarded to them from prior. So, Kev, I got to ask, what do you think? I know we said we weren't going to talk about this anymore, but it's the slap that keeps on giving, man. I'm telling you. So it looks like the Film Academy has dropped the hammer on Will Smith. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think they needed to do something. It's quite clear they couldn't just ignore it, much like they did on the night of. And so I think this seems fair to me. I think, like you said, we've said most of what we have to say, given the actual event and everything itself. So it's nice to again see some punishment get doled out. I think the best phrasing I heard it, and this might rub people the wrong way, but the best way I heard it is, well, now Will Smith will watch the Oscars like the rest of us, at home with his wife and her boyfriend. So,
Ooh,
touchy, right? But
sounds like a Ricky Gervais joke.
Maybe. I apologize. I can't remember who said it, but I thought that was pretty funny. And I think this was what they should do. You can't take away what he did last year in terms of his work.
Sure.
And so this was a fair punishment.
Well, and I think that's the part that really gets me, is that people are clamoring for him to hand over the Oscar, especially given the examples I gave, Harvey Weinstein and Roman Polanski. If you don't know, Harvey Weinstein very much has been deemed a sexual predator, and for his actions within the Hollywood industry have warranted him to be expelled. He's currently in jail for a 23-year sentence, if I'm not mistaken. Now, Roman Polanski pled guilty to a rape charge where the victim was a minor, which is absolutely appalling. And what's crazy is the day that he won that Oscar, there was a standing ovation for him in the auditorium, and Harrison Ford delivered the Oscar to him personally because he fled the country, so he wouldn't face any sort of legalities around pleading guilty, which to me is just absolutely disgusting behavior. So, you have these two who were former Hollywood elites still keeping their awards. No one's been clamoring for them to return their statuette. And albeit this doesn't give any sort of justification to what Will Smith did that evening, it was absolutely uncalled for, and it overshadowed the entire event. And I think this is the best action that the Academy can really, really do. But I really don't get why people want him to hand over the award. It doesn't take away the fact that that performance was still great. And not only that, there's more and more people that are more shocked at the behavior that Will Smith had that evening, because more often than not, Will Smith is a decent guy that a lot of people do like. And now it seems as though, people don't want to work with him. There was a big deal he had with Netflix that fell off. I think that was an article that I read from last week. And it's been just frozen. Bad Boys 4 apparently was in active pre-production and has now been halted. So everyone's just trying to distance themselves from Will Smith, which I think, again, he did it to himself, but it's more or less maybe trying to talk to him. You know what I mean? Like off the record, as the producer who's maybe producing that movie, like what went down, what happened, right? Kind of thing. And maybe continuing with those projects. I want to see Bad Boys 4. I don't know about you.
I don't know. Bad Boys 3 wasn't the most enjoyable movie.
Oh, it was great. It was great. It was great.
For what it is, sure. I think this will largely blow over in weeks, months, and even years to come.
Well, is that it? Do you think this is it? Do you think we'll get more repercussions? Will eventually?
No, I think what the Academy's done their part. They've dealt with it how they're going to deal with it, and then it is just a matter of, are people going to let a few minutes of a really poor decision affect it's Will Smith is still a box office draw, and so when it comes down to it, it is all about money in Hollywood, and so I can't see this going on forever. People will work with him again, and people will eventually go and see his work again, and so this is just a temporary sort of. And again, he might deserve it, and you'd have to deal with your consequences in this life. That's just a fact of how things work.
For sure.
But I think it'll blow over eventually.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's also interesting that Chris Rock hasn't said anything about.
Well, because he's too busy selling out shows.
He sold out the show. He's addressed it on one of the first shows for that tour. He said, "I'm not going to talk about it," and I don't know where I read it, and so I did read an article, though, that he is holding out for someone to pay him for the exclusive about that, which I think is just hilarious. He's trying to find an opportunity to make money off of it, which I guess
you got to be opportunistic. And again, his comedy show or tour, which was already scheduled before everything happened, but they've added dates to it, and So, if anything, he's benefited from the situation. But I think the most impressive thing is how he's handled it. Because even at some of these earlier comedy shows, people were screaming things about Will Smith, and he's stopped it instantly. No. We're not here to talk about him tonight. We don't need to do that. And so he's still, from the moment it happened right through to now, he's showing class and dignity and poise. And I really respect him for that. And I think it's brilliant. And
composure.
Yeah,
composure. I think that's it. And he's only going to talk about it once. If he's going to talk about it, he's going to
make money. He doesn't need to sue. He doesn't need to sue Will Smith for the money. Let some cable network or whatever pay for the interview, and he'll still get some money out of it. Again, Chris Rock is a big winner out of all of this in terms of reputation, and I think career-wise, he
feels like it. It feels like
okay.
It kind of got
If anything, he's going to send Will a box of chocolates and some flowers and say thanks, man.
Well, we'll have to wait and see if anything else happens. But what we don't have to wait and see is who's going to be joining the Fast and Furious family, because this past weekend, Vin Diesel announces Brie Larson joins Fast and Furious 10. This article comes from Jordan Morrow over at Variety. The Fast family is growing even bigger. Fast and Furious star Vin Diesel announced on Instagram that Brie Larson, who plays Captain Marvel, as we all know, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, will join the cast of the Fast and Furious 10. In an Instagram post on Saturday evening, Diesel wrote, yeah, I'm going to try to do this in a Vin Diesel voice, okay? Yeah, you see this angel over my shoulder. No, I'm kidding. I'll stop that. Yeah, you see this angel over my shoulder cracking me up. You say to yourself, that's Captain Marvel. Clearly there is love and laughter in this image. What you don't see, however, is the character you will be introduced to in Fast 10. You have no idea how timeless and amazing she will be in our mythology. Beyond her beauty, her intellect, her Oscar, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. There, I'll give you a Vin Diesel laugh. Ha ha ha. Is this profound soul who will add something you might not even expect, but yearned for. Welcome to the family, Brie. All right, I'll end it off with another Vin Diesel. Larson confirmed her casting on Sunday morning through a post on her Instagram. Excited doesn't even begin to explain how I feel about joining the Fast family, she wrote. Thank you for welcoming me in with so much kindness and excitement. Fast and the Furious 10 will be directed by Justin Lin and hits theaters May 19th, 2023. Diesel will be back as Dom Toretto, as will the rest of the crew, including Michelle Rodriguez, Tyrese Gibson, Ludacris, Sung Kang, and Charlize Theron, who played the villain Cypher in The Fate of the Furious. And actually announced earlier this year, and I think we might have reported on it, is that Jason Momoa is joining, as well as Daniela Melchior, who, if I'm not mistaken, was in Suicide Squad as Ratcatcher 2. So apparently, as well, Fast and Furious 10 will be the penultimate chapter of the current cast and characters. An 11th movie will also be directed by Lin, and it's set to be the final of the Fast saga. So I got to ask, Kev, the family gets bigger. It's all about family. What do you think about Brie Larson joining?
I thought you were going to ask what I think about your Vin Diesel impression, because I don't have much positive
It's awful,
to
I
say
know.
you know what? It's crazy. You know, we're both big Fast fans. We've always gotten a kick out of the franchise, and I think people like around Hollywood must too, because the amount of A-listers that they keep nabbing for these movies. I mean, Brie Larson will be the third Academy Award winning actress to join this group of actors. So it's kind of funny. It's always just like, wow, they got them too. I think I read somewhere Vin Diesel was eyeing Michael Caine, who's also an Oscar winner at one point, to join. And so anybody they can get their
he's like,
hands on.
I got Helen Mirren.
Yeah.
I got Helen Mirren. I'm one stop away from Michael Caine.
Kurt Russell is a god in a lot of film circles.
Has
and
he
everything.
won an Oscar?
No, I don't believe so. But
No,
again,
yes.
one of those highly respected actors who you go, oh, that's amazing. They just
So
got
you
him.
said 3. So I'm counting obviously Brie Larson
and
Helen Mirren
and Charlize
and Charlize there, and
There
that's
you go.
absolutely right. Awesome. Wow, that is crazy. Who do you think she's going to play? Because I was pretty quick with my own assumptions of who she might be, but then I was on Twitter and people were already having the same idea. But I definitely think she's going to maybe be the long lost sister of Brian.
You know what? The way Vin was talking about how, she won't be here for a long time when you consider it's only going to be for a movie or two out of 11. But the role will be powerful and it'll stay with you as fans of these movies. And so, you think it will have some levity behind who she's playing. So I think that's probably the safest bet at this point.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's probably the most likely. I also thought it was interesting, maybe it's just Jordan Morrow just kind of being optimistic, but he refers to, the current cast of characters, this being the penultimate chapter. Makes me wonder if we'll get more Fast and Furious, just not with these characters after.
But it's like one of those things where if you branch out, this isn't like Star Wars where you can set something in a galaxy and don't necessarily need the main characters that you're familiar with to be part of that galaxy. Whereas this is Fast and the Furious just takes place on Earth, so like any movie could technically be part of Fast and the Furious. But if it doesn't have your Torettos and your Ludacris and your I can't think of the character names that they play, but if you don't have those guys, then it isn't really a Fast and Furious movie. So honestly, I know they're splitting up this 10th movie into 2 parts, kind of Kill Bill style, right? So 10 and 11 are technically one big movie, and then it's time. It is time to hang up the keys, if you will, to Dom's old Dodge Charger and just ride off into the sunset. I'm ready. I think we're all ready for it.
Well, as Dom says, the wood hasn't even been invented yet. It's a deep cut for Fast fans, if you know where that's from. What people aren't ready for, though, is our next news story, which, let me just read this to you, this headline. Spirit Halloween Store film in the works starring Christopher Lloyd and Rachel Lee Cook. This article comes from KG Yosman from Variety. You heard me right. Spirit Halloween, the iconic costume and prop store with over 1,400 locations across North America, has teamed up with Strike Back Studios, Hideout Pictures, and Particular Crowd for a feature-length family movie called, you guessed it, Spirit Halloween. Billed as a family kids adventure movie, this project stars Back to the Future star Christopher Lloyd and She's All That star Rachel Lee Cook.
There
as well as some new
she
faces.
goes, there she goes again.
With this announcement came a logline which reads, when a new Spirit Halloween store appears in a deserted strip mall, 3 middle school friends who think they've outgrown trick-or-treating make a dare to spend the night locked inside the store Halloween night. But they soon find out that the store is haunted by an angry, evil spirit who has possessed the creepy animatronic characters. The kids embark on a thrilling and spooky, there's the tease, spooky adventure in order to survive the night and avoid becoming possessed themselves. Noor Ahmed, president of Strike Back Studios, was also quoted as saying, one of the reasons I immediately connected with the script is that it is very much inspired by some of my favorite kid adventure films growing up, from The Goonies, Gremlins, Monster Squad, and so many great films made by Amblin Entertainment. Now, get this. Filming on this Spirit Halloween has now wrapped. They are aiming for an October 2022 release. Now, Kev, I know you're a huge fan of Spirit Halloween stores, so I gotta know: are you stoked for this movie or what?
This is brilliance. This is the kind of script I can't believe I didn't write myself. Do you know how many times in the days leading up to Halloween in years past where I've got my animatronics all set up and they're just sitting in the garage waiting to go out on display, and I've had to go grab something, maybe take out some garbage or recycling, and just thought, man, if one of those things moves right now, I'm going to freak right out. And so this taps into a very real fear that I have. But the kids' family sort of moniker that they're giving it, that sort of adventure, that's perfect. So I won't be too scared. Yeah, this is the most exciting Halloween movie I can think of coming out since maybe Goosebumps. This is like, Spirit Halloween is my favorite place to go, right next to either the Rogers Centre or the Scotiabank for a Leaf for Jays game. I love going to Spirit Halloween every year.
For sure.
We can't wait till the new one sets up and we can, go find it and walk around and explore. So, I mean, this is just such a me concept. I love it. I think it's hilarious.
For sure. Yeah, no, and just to even give a little bit more context, a couple years back, we did a Halloween spooktacular where we showcased your epic home decked out for Halloween. We'll put the video in the show notes. But yeah, I saw this story and I was like, man, Kevin's gonna friggin' love this movie. I am interested because it is an interesting concept to take a relatively well-known store, not necessarily a toy or a product, but something that has its own iconography with Halloween, and create more of a modern story off of it. It's interesting. I don't think it's going to be good, but I think that I would be at least interested enough to check it out to see what it is all about. But I just think it's absolutely hilarious, like you said, to kind of create something more modern and more of today. In Canada, at least, Spirit Halloween stores seem to either just kind of pop up in and around, like you were saying, Kevin, like in and around Halloween. Whereas I think in the States, they might be a little bit more situated.
There's a few standalone locations that sort of are around year round, but no, even for the most part, they are just sort of Because nobody's buying decorations for Halloween in March, right? So there's no point in spending all the overhead on rent and staff and everything like that. So yeah, they move around, they go and find the cheapest abandoned store in town and move all their stuff in for a couple months, and then they're gone.
Yeah,
I always like around the Halloween season, and you'll see people posting pictures, and it's of the Avengers Tower all dilapidated, but with a Spirit Halloween banner. We're moving in, like that's so much what they do, and so
that's actually what I think they tweeted that, or someone tweeted it and they retweeted it.
They know, who they
for
are,
sure.
So they have fun with it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's the other thing. They actually have a if you check out their Twitter, it's actually fairly funny. So there is someone behind there that does leverage that marketing. I just think it's so funny though that in the log line it's like when a new Spirit Halloween store appears in a deserted strip mall, because that's usually the circumstances of when.
Just look at your hometown Halloween of Newmarket, right? In the last 5 years. It's been at the Upper Canada Mall. It's been in an old Shoppers Drug Mart. It's been in an old Bed Bath & Beyond. I mean, every year it's sort of a struggle of finding where they've moved it to next. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You always have to search. So yeah, so that's coming out apparently October 2022. We shall see if we end up checking that one out.
I will at least be checking it out. I can assure you that.
I look forward to that as a watcha.
Yeah, there we go. It might be a watcha quality. We'll see.
Awesome. Okay, well that's it for news. So with that, let's move into
It's trailer time.
All right, our first trailer is for a series coming to Amazon Prime. Actually, I believe it's actually dropping later this week, April 15th. And it's called Outer Range. It stars Josh Brolin, Imogen Poots, Will Patton, Tom Pelphrey, Lily Taylor, Tamara Pomitsky, and Noah Reid. Synopsis: a rancher fighting for his land and family discovers an unfathomable mystery at the edge of Wyoming's wilderness. This looks wild. This looks like a really weird concept. It's interesting how, we talked about Nope, which is Jordan Peele's.
I got lots of Nope vibes from this.
Yes.
That sort of cowboys and aliens mix. All I know is season 4 of Yellowstone looks wild, man. That's all I know.
Oh, is that what you're saying this is? It's like season 4? Yeah, for sure. It is interesting that Amazon Prime is putting out another sort of cowboy western show that does, inherently call into Yellowstone, which is a successful. They've even made a spin-off, right? So it's a successful series for them to kind of be pushing. But yeah, this is like a very interesting. It looks like it's a sci-fi psychological thriller, and I love the cast. Josh Brolin.
That's a huge get. That's a huge get, right?
That's a huge get, for sure. Especially I don't know if he's done any series, so this might be his first. But Will Patton, I love Will Patton, and I think it looks like they're going to be at, each other's throats, if you will. But the one surprise out of this cast was Noah Reid. Do you know who Noah Reid is?
Yeah, well, of anybody who's a fan of Score the Hockey Musical knows who Noah Reid is. But he also did that little thing called Schitt's Creek. So
yes, he was. I'm Patrick.
Sorry. Yes,
he's Patrick.
Patrick
Yeah.
Schitt's Creek. I'm sorry. If anybody knows Score the Hockey Musical, please hit us up and let us know what you think. That's an all timer.
So yeah, I was pretty shocked to see. Not shocked, but I'm happy to see Noah Reid in this, because again, he was so delightful in Schitt's Creek as Patrick, and as he has his relationship with David in Schitt's Creek. It was so honest and it was just really nice. It was a really nice anchor to that series. So to see Noah Reid in what looks to be, again, a sci-fi drama psychological thriller, it's going to be interesting to see his acting chops take a new direction, if you will. I think he's still going to have the comedy, though, because I think that's inherently in him, to be a bit of a chuckle at times. So, yeah, this looks great. I'm actually really interested. Do you think Does it have you hooked though, based on this trailer? Were you hooked to find out more and to see?
Yeah, as the years go on, I get more and more into Westerns. And so anytime you can sort of put a unique spin on that, it definitely intrigues me. And so, yeah, this one kind of came out of nowhere that it's coming out so soon. Not sure how it flew under the radar for us, I guess, until this trailer came out. And so here we are. It is interesting that you mentioned Will Patton, and I've mentioned Yellowstone, and he'll now have been in both of those shows for Amazon Prime in the last little while here. But
Yeah,
great cast indeed. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of potential here to just get wild, get weird, get freaky. Let's go.
Yeah, and like we just said, like, with Nope coming out later this summer in July, it's kind of nice that, if this show was meant to kind of come out later, that they've at least put it before Nope in case there are overlaps in sort of the thematic elements. Because, I don't know, I got alien vibes from
I shouldn't just assume that's what it is, but that does really feel like where they're going with it. So, but maybe it'll be something completely different and catch us off guard.
For sure. And that's the intrigue. That's the mystery box, is that giant hole. So yeah, that's coming out April 15th. So we don't have to wait too long. I actually might check that out this weekend and see what it's all about. All right. Our next trailer, I picked this one specifically for you, Kevin. It's called The Baby. It's hitting HBO, being that you are a soon-to-be father. The cast includes Michelle Desuarde, Amber Grappi, Amira Ghazal, and Chevron Marks. The synopsis reads, this is a new limited series that blends horror and comedy in a surrealist study on motherhood. When a controlling baby with violent powers mysteriously lands in Natasha's lap, she must figure out how to wrestle her life back. She doesn't want a baby, but the baby wants her. The Baby premieres April 24th on HBO Max. This looks so weird, man. It looks so bizarre.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it says it in the synopsis. It says it right in the trailer, the most terrifying comedy. I'm like, I am not getting a lot of comedy vibes out of what we've seen so far here, but I guess I guess that'll be part of how the show unfolds. But it looks really weird, and as you say, as a soon to be a father to be, if you will, I don't know if this is like ideal watching for us, as we're already full of anxiety and stress, and you never know that you might give birth to a super powered demonic baby, right? You never know what's going to happen. So
100%, it looks like the comedy will come from the situation of the baby. I feel like that's it.
That or the deaths. It almost seems like the deaths will be very much like I was getting almost 6 Feet Under vibes, where all those episodes were sort of they followed a weird circumstantial death, and and so
they were like comedically tragic, right?
Exactly.
It was like
I feel like
that
my favorite was the truck full of blow up dolls that releases, and so the woman thinks that the rapture's happening and walks into traffic. I mean, just some crazy stuff. And so I think this show might have a lot of those elements to it.
And I think what really stuck with me is, as you pointed out, is this horror comedy, and count me a sucker for this word, but a surrealist sort of study of motherhood. So there's just this idea of, mothers can kind of be seen as controlling the babies and being very timid. Feels like the baby is going to be controlling her, which is kind of bringing out this sort of paternal mother approach, where, again, as the synopsis says, she doesn't want the baby, but the baby wants her. It's going to be really interesting to see how this unfolds. And again, we don't have to wait too long. April 24th on HBO Max. I hope we get it here in Canada on Crave, because I'll definitely check out the first episode.
If you like weird TV, April is going to be your month, I think.
I think so. All right, let's get to our next trailer here. This one, a lot more lighthearted. It's going to pull at your heartstrings, Kevin. We got Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. This is from A24. It's hitting theaters June 24th. There's no synopsis, but this is a film from director Dean Fletcher Camp and starring Jenny Slate, Isabella Rossellini, and Leslie Stahl. I don't know if you knew this, Kev, but some fun facts here. It's actually based on a short film of the same name that was created specifically for YouTube in 2010. There was a series of little shorts.
Yeah, I believe there were three of them. I went and watched them after this trailer came out just to sort of see what the heck is going on here.
I remember watching it way back when, but it never like hooked me, right? But it was a viral sensation. It was kind of like when viral was a thing. This was one of those examples. And this film is actually already premiered at the Tellerud Film Festival this past September, and it is set to be released June 24th, 2022 by A24, which the film received positive reviews from critics. So it's interesting. What did you think, Kev? What did you think of this movie?
Yeah, I mean, again, I mean, because of our background doing all the stop motion animation, when we were really hitting the YouTube stuff hard, everything sort of in this vein speaks to me a little bit more, than even traditional animation would. And so, yeah, I thought this was really sweet. And like I said, I went and watched the 3 short films that came out in the early to mid 2010s. And they were great. They're 3-4 minutes long. So I just don't know how that will translate into a full-length movie. that would be my biggest question mark going into it.
I'm wondering, yeah, that was my biggest question mark too. I feel like this could be an 80-minute to 90-minute movie. Anything longer than that, I don't know if that's...
It runs at about $1.29, really, so it is about an hour and a half. So it's right in that nice, short little wheelhouse. Yeah, because like you said, anything more, and it's how can you really stretch this premise out? But I love a documentary, a docu-series style. The parody on that. It's always very enjoyable, and so yeah, I think it's certainly far sweeter than the first 2 trailers that we looked at here in terms of what's going on. And Jenny Slate is so terrific as Marcel. She's really, really adorable. And so I think this will, like you said, pull on a lot of heartstrings. I think Marcel's going to win a lot of people over.
Yeah, for sure. I think the shorts, what always stood out to me about the shorts is that they were just very, like, almost like situational comedies of Jenny Slate just kind of talking about like her life as this shell. And now that groundwork has been laid in these like little short movies, they can kind of have free will and sort of reference and talk about some of those things. And I think that the same sort of style of humor where it's very, her kind of almost like she's telling a joke, but she's not. She's just describing her life. Like that's going to very much be a premise to her character.
Yeah, it seems like it's very much a lot of Jenny Slate just sort of riffing and improvising, and then they film the animation to go on top of it. Because just even in some of the short films, she'll say something about how, she always wanted a dog, could never have a dog, but so now she just tied a piece of hair around a piece of lint. And, the director behind the camera interviewing this shell is laughing as if he's being taken off guard by what's being said. And so I think it is very improvisational, and it is just a lot of riffing. And then I think what the idea is those shorts have now made Marcel the Shell famous, and so now they're following him around even more to see, what kind of adventures he can go on. So
and it looks like it's a coming of shell story.
There you go,
if you will, where it will be very much discovering their own identity and their own existence. And having A24 behind this just helps cement this idea of the sort of diverse films that they kind of will get behind, that are artful, yet this doesn't really lend itself to being some of the drama and maybe even the horror side, but it's very family oriented, and they've done movies like this, so it sits in that other side of the bracket of outside of what I think, let's just say, what general audience may or may not know of A24. So I think it's great that they're actually getting behind it and bringing it to more theaters and really pushing it.
Yeah, no, it's huge. It's huge for the movie. And A24 rarely backs a loser, right? They're putting their name on films that they really respect and admire, and so this definitely seems like almost one of the more mainstream. And that's, if you watch the trailer, it doesn't scream mainstream right off the hat. But for A24, this does seem a little bit more just approachable for wider audiences, I think, than a lot of their stuff. And so that's a very smart move. And so I think both of them benefit. They benefit from branching out, and this small little movie benefits from getting who is a growing name in the film industry. They get that sort of clout. So it seems like a win-win. And like you said, right off the top, early reviews are very, very positive. People have nothing but
Yep.
nice things to say about this lovely looking little movie.
Yeah, they're diversifying what sort of films that they put their name on, right? They have the Hereditary, they have the Midsommar, they have the Green Knight, they have now Everything Everywhere All at Once. These are all very similar but different movies from one another. And again, something like Marcel the Shell with shoes is going to be a nice addition to the family of A24. All right, our last trailer. This one dropped today, so of course we're going to talk about it. Can't believe I wasn't going to not talk about it, but we're going to talk about it. Stranger Things Season 4, Volume 1, hitting Netflix May 27th. We got all the original cast coming back for this. This is going to be part 1 of 2, as mentioned in Volume 1 of Season 4. The other part will be coming out, I believe, in July. I don't know if there's an actual date yet, but this whole Season 4, Volume 1 and Volume 2 will be the penultimate to Season 5, which will then close out this series. This is our first real look at like the new threat that these kids are going to have to take on. There are also some really, the kids all look very grown up. I'm just going to say that for being in high school, but it still works. If you will. But it looks like they're getting deeper into the Upside Down. And already Eagle Eye fans are pointing out things like in the trailer, we see Billy's sister, whose name escapes me right now, sitting at the gravestone reading. And it does say Billy's name. But then in another scene when she's levitating above the grave, the tombstone then says William and not Billy. So a lot of people are wondering what that might mean. Is there time jumps? Are there time elements? I know Nate would probably be all over this right now, talking about how it's like there's going to be time travel involved, which I wouldn't put past this show. It would need to kind of find some way of adding something new as they close this out. Does that really make sense?
Yeah, no, because, in mentioning it, the fact that there is now an end date is one of the more promising things for me. Not because I haven't enjoyed the adventure along the way, but it does feel like how much more can you really do within this world without it starting to feel a little repetitive or whatnot. And, so the idea that they've got this end date in mind and can now work towards that, I think only benefits the show. And then to actually see this fully drawn out trailer, it looks like this season's going to bring in some different elements. It's not just a matter of the Demogorgons and everything coming through and getting bigger and bigger, but this seems like a very new sort of villain that we're going to be getting here, and based outside of this haunted house looking building, and then you've got this humanoid figure that seems to be the main threat here. It looks very, very intriguing. I'm certainly interested, and I think the time jump was a great idea because they knew these kids were all going to shoot up and look older. They're all about 18, 19, 20. So that's fine when you're playing, somebody in the later few years of high school when you're about 18.
Yeah, for
that
sure.
works.
Yeah.
So I have no qualms with that. I think it was smart to not just play it off as being the next year and all of a sudden they look 3 or 4 years older,
Well, I remember when we did cover the story when they initially announced that this was going to be broken up into 2 volumes, that the time jump is only 6 months after the events of season 3. So it's not really that much of a time jump.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so while they do look older, and I agree with you, I think the time jump could have been a little bit longer. Like they're already into school, things maybe have gotten a little bit more normal for them. But again, that's to be seen. The humanoid character, already on Twitter, people are saying, I love the what people are saying about it potentially being Barb. It's Barb.
Well,
that's because everyone just wants her to have some sort of vindication, right?
Right,
Because
some
she was
sort of
just
closure.
gone too soon. Yeah, some sort of closure. I don't think it is. It kind of reminded me very much like the villain from Eternals, that sort of humanoid, tentacly sort of CGI'd being. But it does look like they're going to be a huge threat. It's just a matter of if that's the threat for the next 2 seasons, so for season 4 and season 5, or is this just going to be the threat for this that's going to lead to a bigger threat? Who knows? I'm also really interested in seeing how, now that Russia has seemed to have opened the door on the other end, what they're doing and how they're going to play into this sort of whole thing. Like, I wonder if it's going to be like the world comes together, you know what I mean, to stop. But I was really happy to see Paul, what's his name?
Paul Reiser. Yeah. Oh, I'm just mad about
Paul
him.
Reiser. Yeah, I was. I loved seeing his character.
It's good to see him, and he seems like he's going to be almost trying to put some pieces together in order to stop what he's describing as this epic threat, right?
He seems to have a lot more information about what's going to be going on. That's going to be filling in the rest of the group about what they need to conquer. So, we don't have to wait long for that one either. At the end of May, May 27th, that one is dropping on Netflix, and probably in traditional Netflix manner, all at once, one dump, May 27th.
And hopefully, fingers crossed, we can work with Netflix Canada, get our hands on that early, and let you know what you should expect before you're able to check it out.
Yeah, we'll give you our early thoughts, hopefully. So we're definitely going to try and see if we can. So, well, dude, that's it for trailers, man. We wrapped this sucker up pretty quickly. But before we officially put a wrap on this episode of This Week in Geek, I thought let's just close out with a little whatcha for our listeners, something you've enjoyed this past week that they should watch, play, read, listen to, whatever.
Well, as we talked at the top of the program, I've been pretty consumed. It's a busy night or busy time for sports. I have a game a night, if not two, as we're recording right now. There's a Leaf and a Jays game on. But I've managed to sneak in a little bit of TV. Haven't been on Twig This Week in Geek in a couple weeks, so I didn't get to say how much I enjoyed the first season of Our Flag Means Death. They took the show in some directions I wasn't really expecting, and it was heartbreaking by the end of it.
Really?
And so, oh my goodness, it's absolutely heartbreaking. And so I really hope the show gets another season so we can explore these characters and see where they wind up. They've done some really lovely things here. Taika plays Blackbeard, and it's so different than anything you'd sort of expect from that character. So I really liked what they did with that show. But I've also been enjoying on a weekly basis Winning Time. I'm really digging what they're doing with that show. I think it's terrific.
I love it. I absolutely love it, man. I'm so glad you started watching it. I haven't watched this past week's episode. I think it's episode 6. But I'm absolutely digging it. It's been greenlit for a second season. So I think that's really, really great. And it does make me kind of think, how are they going to end this whole thing? But, this early on I think there's about maybe, let's say 2 to 4 episodes left. I don't know what the run is of episodes. Maybe it's 8 or 10, maybe it's 12. I don't know. But that being said, the fact that, we're only at episode 6, or when this was announced, like episode 5 or 4, and they're already saying, they're coming back with a season 2. It's pretty wild. And honestly, I love John C. Reilly in this. I think he's doing a great job. And what do you think of the style? Like, just to kind of quickly gab about this, what do you think of the sort of Adam McKay style being applied to this
yeah,
sports?
you get like random fourth wall breaking. I love the combination of everything looks retro already, but then they'll even film some stuff where it looks like it's being picked up by a documentary crew or a news crew or something thrown in there. And so visually, it's got a really, really unique style. And then in addition to John C. Reilly, I think Quincy Isaiah as Magic Johnson is so charming, so captivating. He captures that larger-than-life personality that Magic was. And then really, really nicely contrasted by Solomon Hughes as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Their relationship is so fascinating. And so
I'm just loving how, Magic Johnson is being perceived as this sort of positivity, this light, whereas Kareem is obviously, as you watch, he seems to be kind of stepping back, just taking a little bit more of a look at what's going on with what he does and whatnot. So I love that you have that dynamic between them, and there is this like young and old sort of relationship, and then you just have this energetic John C. Reilly that's just so over the top. I absolutely love it. It's so good.
Yeah, there's so much to jump into, and I don't think you need to be a sports fan to really enjoy it, because it is just a really fascinating period piece, if you will, and then they make, I think, the basketball entertaining enough that they're sort of breaking down for a fan of any level, sort of what's happening and why this was a very, very special time in the game and for this very, very integral, important, legendary team.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm not a huge sports fan by any means. I like sports, but it's not like I'm going out of my way watching two games while recording a podcast at the same time. But I think the main thing is that if you're not into sports, what this does is it does capture, like you said, the game and at the point in the late 70s entering the 80s where basketball was at that point and how everything was changing from the game experience to how the coach is coaching the team to be more I love the reference of jazz, be fluid. I loved, and those are references that any audience, whether you're a sports fan or not, will necessarily connect with and understand the motives and the intention. So I think that I agree. I don't think it necessarily pins itself for being the hardcore sports fans. It's being more open to being inclusive to those that might just want to know more about the story. And man, I am all over this visual aesthetic. I love the mix of archival with actual sort of decent cinematography, but sometimes it looks like it's shot on like a 4x3 like 16 millimeter or 8 millimeter camera, and TV cameras, and like those old retro ones. There's one shot when they're showing like a recap of them playing the game and it's all green, and I'm like, yeah, that just looks like an old TV camera. And also Adrian Brody, man, Adrian Brody
So
in the
good.
show he's so good. God, geez, we could gab on.
Yeah,
about this.
I absolutely could, but I will just close by saying this team is just getting started. I mean, they basically have a 10-year just run of dominance in that they've taken it so slow so far that we're 6 episodes in and only a couple months into the first season. And honestly, they go all throughout the 80s. And so I think you could probably speed things up and maybe condense a few years into a season going forward. But this has legs. I think the cast that they've assembled here is so good that I would want to see them not just wrap up the first season that they're together, but go for the decade and let's see where the team goes, and let's see how Jerry Buss just changes the game from off the court to on it. There's a lot of potential here.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, man. Couldn't agree more.
But how about yourself? What you been watching lately? What you been up to?
Well, I was actually so I'm continuing with. Last week I was mentioning that I've been reading some comics, so I've been continuing my Moon Knight and Miss Marvel reads. But this week my wife and I, Angie and I, we started watching a show that I've never actually watched in its entirety. I've just watched certain episodes here and there. And I know you're going to love this. It's Modern Family.
About time, bud. About time.
About time. I have watched it. I know who Phil Dunphy is. I know Cam, and they're all those are my favorites. I love Jay as well now, and Manny is he's so cute. I'm really digging this show for, again, this seems so like dated to be saying this because this show's been out for quite some time, but its take on situation comedy, very, Office-esque, but then just really heartfelt family moments that genuinely feel honest. I think that's what I'm really taking away from it, because everything just ends with that lovely little just closure of caveat of that centers on some sort of subject that binds the family together, whether it's two characters or the entire family. And watching their story through each episode, you see how they're going through their own instances of similar situations. Very situational comedy in that capacity, but it's so nice to see it. And again, the cast of characters are they work so well together. I'm literally like, this is a show that me and my wife watch before we go to bed, right? Like, and it's like that thing that we'll put on, and I'm just like rip roaring laughing every time. It's just too good.
The situations they get into themselves, especially Phil's incredible. But yeah, the way it all comes down at the end of each episode, one of the characters will do sort of a poignant little voiceover, and we'll get montages of everybody else and how the episodes, even though they might not be related, the incidents that they go through, they all have a theme of the week. And it's really, really nice. I will say the last 4 or 5 seasons sort of drop off. The kid actors sort of grow up and become bad at acting somehow. So that was a little disappointing for me to sort of watch as it goes. But those first 8 seasons are amongst the best in sitcom history.
So I've only gotten we're just finishing season 1.
Oh,
right?
you're just
And
starting.
because
You
we
literally
started.
have 7 more seasons of just some of the best
Oh, for
television
sure.
ever written.
But it's crazy to think that, like, when I mentioned, I haven't seen all of the episodes in their entirety. I have seen a good chunk of what I've already seen in season 1. They're like episodes that I'm like, oh yeah, this is the figure skating dancing one, or oh yeah, this is when Benjamin Pratt comes in.
Oh, he's
somehow,
so good.
somewhere
Benjamin Pratt is so good in
he's
that
so
show.
good.
Benjamin Pratt's so
They
good.
had-
Yeah.
The one that I was really surprised with that made me laugh my ass off was seeing Edward Norton when he at the door. I died laughing when the door opened and it was him, and he was dressed up like some bad
80s glam rocker, yeah.
80s 90s glam rocker. Yeah, it was absolutely hilarious.
And Claire's
I'm sure,
got the band wrong, and Edward Norton's
Yeah,
character
absolutely.
realizes Phil doesn't know who he is. So good.
Angie's always just like, Phil's so weird, and their relationship is just weird. The way that they like hit on other people and stuff like that. It's so funny. I just watched the episode when they do it's the Valentine's Day one, when they do the role playing.
Oh, Clyde Bixby, let's go. And Juliana.
and her jacket gets stuck, and it was so good. Such a funny episode. But yeah, I'm sure for our listeners, either you've already watched it and you're like, where the hell has this guy been that he hasn't watched this goddamn show? Or you're like, oh, you know what? I've been meaning to check that out. So if you haven't, then go check it out.
Please do it,
And
especially
don't
if
be
you
like me.
Especially if you do like The Office and Parks and Rec, and just those
For sure.
those funny shows that also pack a lot of heart into them.
Absolutely. I think they struck a chord with people in terms of the next generation of situational comedies, sitcom, right? Because it's no more about the sort of filmed in front of a live studio audience. I think that this, Modern Family does really set the tone for what the future of sitcoms would look like. More of this is what I'd like to see, and less of the Big Bang Theory, which was still a good show. But again, yeah. Well, that's it for This Week in Geek. Thanks for tuning in wherever you listen to podcasts. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and leave us a glowing review. We always appreciate the love. Also, you can reach out to us, ask us any questions about the news, trailers shared today, or anything of any sorts that we cover on a regular basis. To do so, well, you can email us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. You can also reach out to us on Twitter at GeekcentricYT or on Instagram at wearegeekcentric. Keep in mind, we also have a ton of other episodes covering a variety of other content, such as our spoiler-free review for The Northman. Kev and I share our thoughts on the vengeful tale of a Viking prince out to conquer his fate. So if you're interested in hearing our thoughts before the movie hits theaters April 22nd, be sure to check out that podcast. We also have our spoiler-free review for Everything Everywhere All at Once, an A24 film in theaters now. So if you don't know what it's all about, you want to hear our thoughts, you can listen to our podcast and then go check out the movie. Also, I had a chance to sit down with Daniels, the directing duo behind Everything Everywhere All at Once, and they shared a little more insight about their creative process and if they would ever do a Marvel movie. So be sure to check out that episode as well. Also, we have our ongoing watch club for Marvel Studios' Moon Knight, with the first 2 episodes out now and the third one dropping later today at the time of you listening to this recording. And you can tune in week to week for This Week in Geek, like today, as we cover all the news and trailers from the Geekiverse. Until then, Kev, thanks, man, for joining me for This Week in Geek. And as we say,
Get home safe, guys.
peace.